It is the Two Guys Garage Podcast. He is Kevin Bird. I am Willie B. And fired up today, bro. We're talking junk in the trunk, rear ends, man. Yes, indeed. It's the good stuff today, man. It's about time we dove deep into the rear end. Wait a minute.
That's some people's favorite part.
Yeah, man. It's crazy to talk like that. I'm excited, man. Living in Colorado, there's two things you got to get into. All right, smoking meats and four-wheeling. It's a must when you get into Colorado. Wheeling, especially out here, man, it varies. Everything from big rocks, boulders, things like that, to a lot of mud, and Moab is just around the corner. So it's always cool to put something to the test in the form of a hot rod or muscle car, but also some off-road rig that we love to climb in and, hit the trails on a weekend.
Yeah, well, around here where it's very flat, Michigan, Detroit area, then it's all about hot rods. It's all about laying down rubber, hopefully two stripes, big power, having some fun.
Who lays down one stripe? When's the last time you seen a dude do a one-tire fire? I'd have to point that dude out, go out and shake his hand for being so brave just to walk around with something so silly.
It is cool, though, man, that has just become the standard.
Yeah.
When I think about it, I can't even think about the last time I've seen somebody one-wheel peel. I don't think they would want to show their face.
Hey, how funny would that be? Because that would happen, right? Is some dudes being like, hey, why you got an open diff? What? That car can't be fast. Take that thing home and lock it up until you get both tires on the ground, son. Damn.
When factory horsepower was like 280, 325, 375 was getting big numbers. Maybe you could get away with a one-wheel peel and no one would notice. But now we're pushing the 600, the 800, the 1,000, the 2,000. Yeah, ain't nobody running around with 1,000 horsepower at one wheel. I think we're far beyond that now. Thanks to many guys out there, one of which, Currie Enterprises, which we have on today. Everybody knows about Currie axles. These guys put down the power. Man, we got John Henson. Thanks for joining us today, John, man. Really appreciate what you guys do to lay down the double strikes.
Oh, right on, man. No, thank you. I appreciate that. That's just going through that. It kind of reminds me of like the evolution of the rear end, man, and things that have, progressed. We're talking about street cars that make over 1,000 horsepower in today's market, and so, it's kind of our job to educate and to teach guys like, hey, what are you going to do with 1,000 horsepower in a street car? What do you need to upgrade so that you are well equipped in the rear end so that you're not going to be breaking anything, right? So yes, absolutely, man. The game has so changed over the years.
Oh, man. Yeah. Well, especially now because you can go turnkey, buy a car with 1,000 horsepower, drive it off the lot. So it's wild to see those cars, especially now when you take those modern drivetrains where these cars have, like he said, 600, 700, 800 horsepower more, because everybody's doing resto mods. Everybody's building, an LSA engine in a 1950 Chevy pickup truck for. I don't know why you would want it. It's like a go-kart. Are you?
Nice.
We're
everybody's
doing that. I've got a 1965 Nova with a LS3 and a Magnuson sitting on top, right? And I make 7 at the tire. Course. So it's like, okay, well, what do we do to make sure that whatever's getting it to the tire is well equipped for that, So try to make 5-speed. Exactly. I'm not losing a lot, and it's got to lay down 2 tracks, like you were saying, man. Who's gonna have a mono or a mono track or a open diff, and with 700 horsepower? What are you building? So no, definitely not. So the game's changing.
Hey, how funny would that be? You just run around on the street for like a weekend, just like one weekend. Like that would be hysterical to have an 800 horsepower at the tire, and at the tire is all the difference, man. But having something that's 700, 800, my daily driver is 790, almost 800 at the rear tire. So I feel exactly what you mean. But having one tire that was 100% live all the time for one weekend would be a riot. Like it would be hysterical. I'd just be rolling down the highway, just smoking and trashing.
I can see the memes now.
See, at the end of Saturday, though, you'd have to switch the tires from the left side to the right side and then burn off the other 100%. One for Sunday.
100%. Have you ever had? So I purchased 72 Vega wagon. Had had 350 in it. I pulled out of basically a junkyard. I threw a bunch of nitrous at it. It was dry kits back when we didn't know any difference. So a dry kit, like a 150 shot. And I swear I go through 7-8 bottles on a weekend. But the thing was, initially, the guy I bought it from said it was a rear end out of a Z28, which I thought was at least a limited slip, but it was a one-tire fryer. So, like a lot of guys in that time, in that era, I had buddies that were like, man, all you gotta do is open that there diff, man, drop you a big old chunk of metal right there, and then thing called spider gear, man. Just weld that up, just torch that thing up right there, man. No heat to it, man. You won't break that thing; it'd be perfect.
Yeah.
So I did that.
Yeah, how did that sound going around the corner?
Yep. And it's that's you're basically making a full spool, right?
Oh,
you're just welding everything together so that
spool.
everything does this at the same time.
I hated curves. I hated curves.
Yeah, that's no fun to drive around on, man. That is absolutely no fun to drive around on.
Yeah.
We call all the time that like, hey, no, my grandfather used to build cars back in the day, and he told me that I need a 9-inch with a 456 gear in it, and it's got to have a spool. And I'm like, okay, no, I can respect that. So, is it a dedicated drag race car? Well, no. Okay, well, tell me what you're gonna do with the car. Oh, I'm gonna drive the Cars and Coffee on Sunday. And I might autocross it a little bit. Let's not build your grandfather's drag race car. Let's talk about something that is going to work well in that arena, right?
Yeah,
so,
man.
It's a little different game, man. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but mainly what we are seeing on our side is people are building street cars.
Absolutely.
They're building high horsepower, fun cars that they can drive to Cars and Coffee in, autocross on Saturday, maybe drag race a little bit for fun. But it's not that car anymore. It's not a big block turbo 400.
You don't need it. You don't need massive camshafts. All kinds of seat pressure on the valves and this radical engine and 118 octane fuel, because you could have a 9.5 to 1 compression engine with a big scroller on it, twin scroll on it, making 800 horsepower all day, getting 15 miles a gallon. It's crazy the options available, and so many people are taking that drivetrain and crossing it over something that meant something passionate. It inspired, whether it was an old muscle car, or old station wagon, old pickup trucks are raging. I just love to see modern drivetrains in these older cars. And I love the fact that people are finally, having all this supporting cast out there to do it. And that's where really you guys have been hitting home runs. You guys, you're just the rear end, and you don't do suspensions, and you guys have so many options. I think a lot of people may have a misconception when they think, Currie rear ends, right? You may just think the old school off-road stuff, but you guys really, man, have you guys been blowing up lately on SKUs and cars and kits and everything else?
Yeah, absolutely. Really when it boils down to it, our crate program for the muscle car market is really huge for us. And what we've developed on that side of the business is a completely assembled, bolted together, powder coated, beautifully satin black, with your choice of brakes on it, and it's on a pallet delivered to you for your 69 Camaro, your 59 Impala, your 55 Chevy, your 70 Nova. And when you
hold on, John, I got to preface that because some people may be listening to the podcast. He said 59 Impala to torture me, y'all. That was a personal listen, because before we brought him on, I was just chit-chatting with him. I said, hey man, because I'm building a 60 Biscayne, which is the same thing like an Impala, Biscayne, they're all just trim packages. Well, I said, hey man, I've not been able to find a rear end for this car because it's an X-frame car. It's that weird odd 3-link and that weird 10-bolt thing that they did. It's just a wild rear end, and not one that a lot of people will dive into and remake. They always say, oh, just, you got to go this 4.9-inch, you got to do this, you got to do that, got to weld these brackets on. And I said, hey, here's the real test. Do you have one for this car? And he said, yeah, you want the SKU? So this man is serious when he's talking about these kits and these things.
Yeah, man.
I'm talking to him after the podcast today because I told him, I'm like, I'm your first customer for this podcast.
I'm still waiting for you to dig back in that pocket over there and pull that credit card out, man.
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
He's going to see that number, not you.
Man. We can do this.
Well, you want to have a Currie showing up for his Mustang.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, just to play devil's advocate. Talk to me about motor and transmission in that car. What are you going to do?
555 Merlin. All right. Old school big block, fuel injected, trim it 6-speed. The car's got a lot of suspension and a lot of brakes. On the outside, it looks like a 20-footer. I left it rough and bubbly in some spots and did some metal work that needed to be, just for rigidity and structure look and appearance. I did some metal work on it, but for the most part, I left it. I found it in a field sitting on the frame, and I loved it because it had this wild, weird look. So I'm leaving that on the outside of the car, but underneath, It's completely like the frame's powder coated, all new body mounts, shims, tubular control arms, all
so kind of pro touring, kind of resto modish, right? But you got the big
What size tire?
And then so what size tire are you going to run on the back?
I'm hoping to run like an 18 or 20. I actually haven't decided on the tire because it's still you know what? The width, man, is wild because I don't know what I can get on that car. I'm trying a 10-inch rim. I'm going to try some different options, but it's still the factory, fender and the factory, that inside lip that comes down and mounts up, is crimped over right there. So I still have that to continue.
Really into play is going to be, what is the rolling diameter of that tire, right? So if you got an 18 or 20, but hey, is it going to be a 28-inch tall tire, a 26-inch tall tire, a 29-inch tall tire, right? And the big B-body cars, they're big cars, right? I mean, you can fit a 10-inch wheel on that car all day long. I'll tell you right now. I've had a 59 and a 62. That's no problem. But on my car, I ran air ride, 22 by 10, 305 wide tire. It's 29 and a half inches tall, right? But now we're talking, okay. So last question, like if you were a customer and called Currie, are you going to drive it on the freeway?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, and you want to go 90 miles an hour, right?
Well, of course. I mean, that's cruising to work.
and you don't want to be spinning that big block at 10,000 RPM, right?
No, I'm not putting no dumb gear in it.
Yeah, I mean, so I would, if you call Currie, I'd probably tell you, look, that tire size, you're probably talking about a 370 gear.
Yeah,
right? You're probably talking about something that once you dump it down in fifth or sixth, hey, now I'm cutting overdrive. I'm spinning 1,800 RPM.
Yeah, you're going to roll.
Sailing on the freeway, right?
Yeah, man,
and
exactly.
So, kind of like what we were talking about before, that same car, but, back in the day was built to be a big block turbo 400 car, that same size tire, and guys were running like a 530 gear, because it's all about eighth mile, So it happens a lot, but, that's why when customers call and they call Currie, we're going to ask you those same questions, and we're going to say, hey, this is my recommendation for a gear if you're going to want to drive that car on the freeway.
Well, the game has changed so much. We talked about the formula for making fast cars. It used to be we could only get so much out of the motor, and now we're eking everything else, like running the skinnies up front to try to get a fraction of a second. We're putting the loudest possible exhaust on. We're putting the biggest gear in there, just trying to work around a pretty anemic motor. But now we're making 800, we're making 1,000, and now you can just chill everything out. You can put some front tires on the car. You can, we've got tires now that, especially if you start tubbing, you get some big meats underneath the car, and the compound on the tire is huge, so you don't have to, force yourself into some kind of a slick or drag radial. So we're getting a formula where we can rethink all the different parts and pieces, especially the rear end and the gears.
Yeah, truly.
Yep. And then, I always say, okay, well, you're going to drive it on the street. We're not going to put a spool in it. We're probably not going to put a ratcheting locker in it that makes a bunch of noise and grabs and loosens up when you're just not expecting it. So we start talking about a limited slip, right? And a limited slip is a posi that gets misdefined if you want to. It's just it's just not, that word.
There's a little misconception on that because a lot of people go limited slip. That means one tire is 100 and the other tire is 50. What is that?
Yeah, what does that even mean? No. So I mean, there's a spool, right? A spool is 100%. Both tires spinning at the same rate, right, all the time. There's no differentiation from left to right, and that's not going to be
solid axle wheel to wheel.
Yeah, and that's not going to be friendly on the street. So let's talk about a differential that's going to work better for you driving on the street.
And just so you're, if you're thinking and listening and thinking to yourself, why is that not good on the street? Well, just think, silly. If you're making a big turn, right, inside part of the turn, well, you're not using near as much real estate as you are on the outside part of it, right? So you just got to cover more ground. So the tire's moving faster on the outside. So it's wild when you think about having the entire thing just locked, right? Because then you start chirping and barking and the car starts kicking. It really upsets the car. So it doesn't like it. It's uncomfortable. So limited slip gets you the traction of a spool basically. And you got two tires that are working as hard as they possibly can. But without a lot of the headaches and a lot more drivability.
Yeah, absolutely. You want the tires to slip at a different rate going around corners.
Right.
But you want both tires to give you traction if you're going straight instead of the gas. and that's what a limited slip will do for you. So that is what we would now recommend for any street car, is going to be a limited slip differential. Now, there's several ways that you can build a limited slip differential over time. It used to be a clutch posi, right? So you had a series of clutches kind of stacked in the differential there, and you had to put in friction modifier as an additive to the gear oil to make it slip and work. And then these collector cars, guys don't drive very often sometimes, right? So they sit in the garage or in their collection 2 months, 3 months, 4 months sometimes without getting driven. Those clutches go dry, right? So that's where you hear the old, tales about guys going out and doing figure eights in their car to work in the gear oil to the clutches to loosen things up and all that. No. New technology has entered the world, and they're all helical gear style limited slips. Helical gear, kind of nickname for it, going to be the worm gear style differential. And Currie has actually developed our own now. We call it the Currie Twin Track. And basically, just to let you know, by the name, it's going to give you 2-tire fire going straight, but it is smooth going around corners left and right, and can handle all the horsepower you want to throw at it, right? But it's something that you don't need to throw friction modifier in or any kind of special additive. There's no clutches to go bad or dry out, or that differential will never need to be rebuilt, right? Because there's no clutches in there to wear out. So it is the way to build a limited slip. And
it's going to be so much smoother, too.
Yeah.
It's going to be...
If you've never run one, you guys should check them out. The helical worm gear style of limited slip, right? It's everything that you understand and know about clutch style. But you don't have that chatter. You don't have that kind of like stick and slip and stick and slip.
Yeah, unpredictability. Yep. Think about an autocross car, right? If you're going into a corner hard and all of a sudden both tires are spinning at the same rate because those clutches are sticking together, you're going to swing around the rear end on you. And that's not what is going to win races, right? And not on an autocross track. Yeah. And you don't want that on the street. If I stab the gas on the street and all of a sudden I'm drifting through a corner when I didn't really expect to, right? That's not good either. So
drifting's cool when you know how to do it. Not cool when you don't know.
Yeah. No.
And you'll find
there's that crowd. We've all seen those guys.
You'll
drive.
find some old school guys. They'll swear up and down on clutches all day long, and then you'll find 10 times as many people that are used and abused on a worm or helical gear style, and they'll outshine, out cheer any of the clutch guys almost every time.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we were doing development on our Currie Twin Track, I was building a C10 for the Hot Rod Power Tour. And we took that big block C10, 500 horsepower to the tire, and put 2,500 very hard miles on it. Very hard miles, doing burnouts, one tire in the dirt, one tire on the pavement, drifting it. And I would do a burnout all the way through 4 gears, all the way through intersections. And then we brought that. Yeah, thank you. We brought that twin track back to the lab, here at Currie, and we took it apart and we inspected every working part of it, and it was wearing beautifully.
So this twin track is now available in all of these rear ends for the muscle car guys, the guys, restoring cars from the 80s, some of the early 90s. To all these kits are available with this twin track in it.
All of our Ford 9-inch 31 spline complete crate rear ends, or Ford 9-inch third members. If you decide you just need a third member, like say you got a Mustang or it has a 9-inch in it, but you want to upgrade, it is available for that.
This is some great stuff, because for so many of us, let's be honest, it's gotten to the point, I think, Kevin, you might have mentioned this earlier, it's gotten to the point where finding a righteous powertrain, that's not the difficult challenge anymore. That used to be. It used to be the tough sort of thing, but nowadays, that's gravy, man. That's easy like Sunday morning. Nowadays, it's all the supporting cast, be it transmission, and especially rear ends. So you guys have been jumping, busy, aggressive with SKUs. So what's your bread and butter? The muscle car market? 70s, 60s,
muscle
70s?
car, yeah, muscle car, absolutely, man. So everything from your 59 to 64 Impala, 55 to 57 Chevy, your Tri-5 guys, 67 to 69 Camaro, and by far the C10 crowd. 63 all the way up to like your square body 87s. And we make a bolt-in crate rear end for all years. For all those years, all those applications that I talked about and more, right? Go ahead.
I just picked up a 1979 K200 pickup truck, and like 6 months after that, I picked up a K500 1981 Blazer. So the old K5 Blazers, and man, those are like the hottest. Between those and I think Blazers probably in that mid 80s range, probably hotter than even the Broncos. But
they're
man,
definitely
those
coming
are
up hard, man, especially for the 4x4 market, right? The 4x4 market on those are huge. And the K5 guys that are the original 2-wheel drive. I've got several customers that are 2-wheel drive, lowered, whether it be coilover or airbag. Some of them are even autocrossing K5s, right?
Dude,
and yes,
even the little ones, even the little S10, the S10 Blazers that still had that square. That I think they're like 88 or something, 89.
88 to 98 S10s. Yeah.
So, dude, those have been surging like crazy. People finding those and making those things hot rods by putting LS in
80s cars, man.
lowering it.
Camaro, and Fox body Mustang. Yeah. Again, we make rear ends for, but yeah, those are coming on super strong. And like the Camaros and the Tri-Fis, guys are making 1,000 horsepower in those now, right?
Yeah.
And they're putting Tremec 6-speeds in them, so. Well, yeah, I'm going to blow up the little rear end in the back. A 10-bolt ain't going to, it's just not going to stand up to that. Dude, it's just not going to happen. It's a go-kart rear end in comparison to what you have up front. And if you took one apart, if you looked at a little tiny ring gear like that, it's going to be what looks like it belongs in a go-kart, not a 9-inch.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And there is strength in that size of gear. So yeah, so that we have crate rear ends for those. They're full bolt-on, full bolt-in ready. Your choice of drum brakes, disc brakes, performance brakes, and your choice of gear ratio.
So I used to do this thing on the radio on Friday nights called FSU Fridays. You can imagine what FSU stands for. But we would have different challenges. We'd have cars and any sort of thing, from filing cabinets and candy machines to full-blown cars that guys would come over and try to run over with their trucks. And it was so funny being out here in Colorado, watching guys with 37-inch tires and factory axles in those old school like 80s and 90s pickup trucks, even 2000s, trying to walk up a car and just blow their axles to smithereens, man. Just
the analogy I always use, and it always drives home. Use a little crowbar and try to break a lug nut loose, right? And then grab a giant crowbar and try to break that lug nut loose. It's the difference between a 32-inch tire and a 40-inch tire, right?
right.
Yeah. That 40-inch tire, which is the standard on a Jeep.
Break it off.
So all the Jeeps that are built around Currie and that the Currie zone all have 40s or 42s on them, guys. So how do you build an axle that's going to put up with that, right? You got to.
That's the questions I wanted to ask you. Again, when we talk about the old school power, which was pretty minimal, maybe you go from a 10-bolt to a 12-bolt. You go from a 300 to a 400 or a 500 horsepower engine. But now we got, big horsepower, and we start talking about big tires, 37s and 40s, and the torque that's on it, right? You're not making these little incrementals. You're not adding, a limited slip, and now your rear end is great. You're not going from a 10 to a 12, and everything's wonderful. You're beating the hell out of these things.
Right.
So you guys are having to look at the entire system, right? The axles, the gear ratios, the center pumpkins, even the housing structures. You look at a lot of these housings.
How do we make the electronics on that all happy too? Right? Because in newer Jeeps, you got ABS and speed sensors to think about too. And all that's got to work with our heavy duty axle. So say in the Jeep world, since we're talking about big tires, we go 1 ton, and we actually cast and have designed and beat the crap out of to make sure it was bulletproof, our own high pinion Dana 60 or Currie 60. And that Currie 60 is a thicker cross-section casting, right? Much thicker than it was ever stock, and much larger bearings. And the pinion bearing alone is much larger. I mean, the whole thing is grown in size, right? And then you were talking about 1-ton axles, 1-ton U-joints, and all of that is going to be better equipped to put up with the abuse of a 40 or 42-inch tire rolling around on rocks, right? Because the Curries are avid off-roaders. They're huge off-roaders, and they've all got their Jeeps that they've built to be able to, go do the Rubicon and come home, drive back too. So, they've got to be well equipped to put up with that.
Yeah, man, that says a lot right there. And we, being out here in Colorado, doing a lot of wheeling out here. That's the name, if you got under your rig, it's quality stuff. And hats out, because it is still a family-owned business. He talked about how they all like to go wheeling and all have off-road Jeeps. Same way, I'm on 40 creepy crawlers. Kingpin 60 with some replacement parts and 14 bolt rear end. But man, it's great to see these guys pound these things because they're hitting a rock out crops like muscle cars are hitting a 60 foot. They're just tearing them up, man. They're dropping.
And both sides of it. I mean, the Currie's been around for a very long time, right? The business was started in '59 by Frank Currie, and Frank would build a car to go and run at out in Utah to try to break up the 200 mile per hour range, right? So he wants to go faster than 200 miles per hour out on the Salt Lake bed, but he drove the car there, put the bolt-on cage on, went over 200 miles an hour, and then took the cage off and drove home, guys. That is in the very essence everything that is Currie, right? That is how we've developed everything that we have today. I mean, and the same thing, like, to this day, third generation Curries, Casey Currie, Monster sponsored athlete, is out there beating it up on the rocks at King of the Hammers and using all of that knowledge and engineering and putting it back into the product, right? So that way, when we sell you a 1-ton rear end or a Currie 9-inch for your hot rod, we know we're giving you the very best that we possibly can because we've put it to the test in that arena. We really did it, guys. Like, that is what we did first before we developed the product to sell.
That's the true spirit of Bonneville too, man. I don't know if you can see behind me, but it's all posters of Bonneville, man. I've been there several times.
Yeah.
I'm on one of my buddies' builds for Land Speed Record. Fascinated by Bonneville and all the hot rod history and the guys that did things like that, man. It's just unbelievable to hear those stories and just the pair that they carried with them, man. Just kahunas, baby.
Can you imagine? I mean, I can't even
awesome.
To drive that roadster there, right? And break and go over 200 miles an hour and then drive it home, and that car's been on Power Tour, dude. And it makes stupid horsepower, and he drove it every step of the way. I mean, and then the other thing, like, have you ever heard of the Great American Race?
Yeah.
The Curries have actually been on that, like, I don't know, over a dozen times, building their own cars to go do that too. I mean, and again, they're just, it's a very cool atmosphere here when you're actually working around, car guys just like you.
Yeah, I got to do a couple legs of Power Tour a couple years back with Casey Currie.
There you go.
Really fun times. Yeah. And this guy, he's got such a crazy, amazing portfolio of wins, a Baja 500, 1000 pro truck. I mean, you name it, the Score Championship. God, it's in the blood there. And he's kind of raced every, 2-wheel, 4-wheel, you name it, hucked it, driven it, crawled it.
And that is what that's the driving force behind Currie now and moving forward to the future.
That's super cool.
You can only imagine where we're headed, guys.
Yeah. So where are you headed before we run out of time, man? Because obviously I feel like during COVID, you guys really upped the number of SKUs, the number of kits available. And when we say kits, guys, understand this is everything you need to do a replacement rear end. And it's got those factory mount positions, which is crucial. A lot of guys get a little intimidated if you start talking about welding or cutting or this, that. But a lot of this stuff, you can go to their website, currieenterprises.com. You can find a full-on bolt-on kit that still uses the factory positions. And I'm sure that's by design, it's in the architecture, but that really does relieve a lot of people's anxiety about going with one of these.
Yeah,
well, to top it off, pick your favorite brakes.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever brake system you want, performance brakes, chilling brakes, whatever.
Yeah.
You can have that on there, ready to go. It all bolts, it all fits together.
Yeah,
right?
We've got a standard disc brake. We've got the name brand disc brakes. And it's, it's only getting better, guys. We're moving towards a future where we're talking about, education and how to build a rear end that's going to handle 1,000 horsepower on a sticky tire. And that's where we're going, and we want that to take the voodoo out of a rear end and basically make it an easy purchase, an educated purchase, and something that now you can spec out based on your build and how you're going to use the vehicle.
Yeah, man. Do people that call you the same treatment, like you walk them through, say, okay, what do you plan on doing with this? How do you plan on driving it? Highway drive? Or you walk through that same scenario, so people are getting something that's right for their build. I remember there was a time in my life when I'd order a camshaft and I'd just go to the bottom of the page and be like, I need that one,
Yeah. I don't know what that is, but I need that. No, we want you
4,000 to 9,000 RPM camshaft. I need that for the street. Yeah.
The ultimate goal is to make sure that at the end of the day, when the customer gets in his car and he's driving and he just wants that freedom, that he's going to get that feeling. right? It's not going to be anything less, but it's going to be everything that he needed it to be in order to enjoy driving it whatever he's going to be using it for, whether it be autocross, rock crawling, freeway flying, power touring. We want to make sure that it was built and equipped correctly for what he's going to use it for.
So give us the rundown. Chevrolets. What do you have it? What do you have these kits for? Camaros,
Impala, Bel Air, Nova, C10, so basically all the major, most popular Chevys, right?
Okay.
In pre, 88, and we've even got now the 88 to 98 trucks. So yeah, even into the 90s,
All right,
and then for Jeep, we're gonna handle something for you that's going to be from, say, like your Jeep TJ, 1996, all the way up to the brand new JL and JT, which is your Wrangler and your Jeep truck.
Okay. Nice. Yep. Now what about
Ford? Yep. So Ford obviously covering all your Mustangs all the way through the 2014, and going all the way back to your 64 and a half. We've got solutions for F100 now. We've actually, we've got solutions for Bronco, 40, do a 44 in the front and a 9-inch in the rear. So we've got bolt-ins for early model Broncos now. So we're trying to cover all we can in the most popular applications.
And you see this Dodge Charger right behind me. That thing is sweet.
Mopar is there. Mopar is
Come
there.
on, baby. Give me some Mopar representation.
Yeah, absolutely. A body, E body, and B body, guys. Yeah, absolutely.
Whoa,
I had a 68 Roadrunner, man, and yeah, we did it. We put a 9-inch in it. Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah,
so no, we've got our Mopar customers all handled. So you just got to make that leap of faith and put a 9-inch, a Currie 9-inch underneath your Mopar. It's okay, guys.
It's okay. Don't call it a Ford 9-inch. Call it a Currie 9-inch.
It's
and
a Currie 9-inch.
Okay. It becomes so much more acceptable.
Yeah, we're building a performance part here, so let's put the better rear end in it. Come on.
Right.
Yeah,
it's better than
nice,
Ford.
Though. Well, I've kind of wondered about the battle forever, right? Because different rear end, different center sections have different strength and pros and cons.
Absolutely.
And to keep kind of that partial, name brand under the OE forever and not just kind of migrate to, all right, let's just throw 9 inches on just about everything.
Yep.
Let's put all the GM axles and pickup points and you name it.
Yeah.
Let's just run the good stuff.
Right. Let's run the good stuff. Look, it's better by design. And that's really what it boils down to. We can go into all kinds of crazy tech and talk for hours about it, but it's a stronger design gear. It's easy to work on. It's a better supported pinion. And it's one of those things where you just don't break them. That it takes a lot of work to break a Currie 9-inch, and if you did break it, you probably just needed to go bigger. Let's go 35 spline or 40 spline because you're popping the wheelie on the line, right? So let's properly build it, which when you call us, we're going to do everything we can to ask you the right questions. And if you honestly answer, we're going to give you those answers, right? So, we're going to say, hey, best thing to do, put the 9-inch in it and call it a day. There's all the options in the way of bolt patterns. So if you got a Ford or Chevy, we've got all the bolt patterns for both, right? Mopar, we've got you handled there, right? And you're not going to break it. You can go to the to the local track and drag race it and pass tech immediately because they're going to look at it and go, yep, he's got the right rear end. You're good to go. It's not a C-clip rear end, and you're going to, C-clip rear ends, you break an axle, and you can eject the whole wheel and tire out the side of the car, guys. There's nothing you're going to sucker in, so bolt-in axle.
I had 4.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I finished the race with
what
3.
happened?
Yeah, I had 4.
Yeah, man. All right, so where do people find you socially? Obviously, CurrieEnterprises.com is a great resource.
Yep, CurrieEnterprises.com, social media, Instagram and Facebook, both Currie Enterprises as well. Please hit us up there. Do not feel like we are not going to answer you. We do monitor our socials. We're very active on YouTube. We've got several YouTube, education programs that we've built on there. It's called Currie Explained. We've also got our Currie Garage, where we go over in depth with some of our customers, how they built their vehicles and why they built their vehicles that way. It's a lot of fun. We do some burnouts. I'm not going to lie. Go check it out. I've had some fun.
It's like flowers for men, baby. Burnouts
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, go check it out. And you can definitely find us on all socials and CurrieEnterprises.com.
Dude, awesome, John. Thanks so much, and what a great resource. And hang on, because we do need to chat about a 60 Biscayne, my man. All right. So, hey, don't forget about our show every weekend on the Motor Trend Network. Check your local listings. Also available on Motor Trend Plus, which is their streaming side, and a great way to find us. Thanks to our guest, John Henson, CurrieEnterprises.com. Make sure you guys check those out. Our producer, Scoop, executive producer, Bob Ecker. He is Kevin Burton. I'm Willie B for the Two Guys Garage podcast.
And don't forget about us. We got a website too at twoguysgarage.com. And we got lots of social, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Two Guys Garage. That's Two Guys Garage Podcast. It's copyrighted 2023, Breton Productions Incorporated. All rights reserved.
All right, man. 60 Bel Air. You know I'm going to get one.
Okay. So on your computer, go to currieNterprises.com. Right? Click on GM. Go to 59 to 64 Impala. Right?
Okay.
And just check it out. And just give me an idea of, hey, this looks right. Yes, I want it powder coated. No, I don't want it powder coated because I want to, do it myself or whatever it may be. And let's nail something down and we'll see what we can do for it.
I got you, my man. That's awesome, John. Thank you.
Right on. The game has changed and you guys are changing with it.
Amen.
Giving us what we need. I love it.
Yeah. No, we'd like to say we are the game changer.
Right on.
Yeah.
Hey, guys. Hope you learned something. Hope you had fun with this. I know I had a blast. Thanks, John, again. We'll catch you guys on the next
guys. Thanks
Two
for having me
Guys Garage podcast.